there is Philidor, the two most famous positions. I will show you Lucina, and after that I will show you the Philidor. Okay? Philidor is for the defense, Lucina is to win. Okay? Lucina, it's the name, not sure why, probably the person who found this idea, but also known, this idea is build the bridge. You basically need to build a bridge in order to win this. This is one of the most important rook endgame positions, endgame position in general, you have to know. So, okay, how can we win this position? Probably the only way we can win is if we promote this pawn into a queen. Otherwise, you cannot win this. But it's not easy. In fact, if his king is now in front of the pawn, it's going to be a draw. Okay? So what do you do here in order to be able to promote this pawn into a queen? It takes several steps. Slowly, inch by inch, you improve the position, and after that, you build the bridge. The final step is the building the bridge. Before you do that, you have to put the king on f8, pawn on f7 here. You should be able to reach that position. That's not so difficult. And you have to make sure you keep the king cut. He cannot cross and get in front of the pawn. So you keep that rook there, keep the king cut. So what do we do here? How do we get that position? You could go rook e4, but is it really necessary? King g5. Correct. Now if he doesn't do anything, we push. So he goes check. f6. He goes back, attack. You push. Okay, he's going to keep eye on the pawn. You go to the side again. Push, check, push. Okay, now we reach this position. Very important step here is his king is too close to your pawn. That means he can catch your pawn in one move. If your king is away, he can catch it by playing one move. So what you do is you push the king away from the pawn. And the way you do that, when the kings are in front of each other, what do we call that? The position like this, our position, right? That means white king is guarding these three squares. Give a little check. That instantly moves him away from your pawn. Now, he needs two moves to catch your pawn. Okay? He needs two moves. Now, what should be our next step? Not yet. We don't have the position yet to put that. One more step needs to be done first. Continue. Correct. Check.
King f8.
Good. Pawn to f7. Okay. Now, he has to play rook g1. If he doesn't play rook g1, he's not defending well. For example, if he just goes here, you don't need any breach, anything. You just go here, control the g file. He goes here, you just come up. You queen the pawn. He comes here trying to defend. Check. He goes away, and you queen. Takes, takes, and we checkmate with the rook. Okay? So he has to play rook g1, because this way, if you don't know the building the bridge method, you're not going to be able to win this game. How do we build the bridge now? Let's see. King e7, check. Check. G, E, E, G, check.
Did you move your rook over to E2 first before you move your king?
The problem is if you do that, then his king comes in. See, we got the king at the right spot. This king movement is not going to work because he's going to check you. He's going to give you lots of checks, right? And then you're going to go here, and he's going to go here. And then suddenly, he's going to win your pawn. Okay? If you don't know how to build a breach, it will be very pity, get this position where you're winning in just 2-3 moves, but you will lose a half point. You have to know. There are 5-6 endgames you must know. One of them is Lucina. Yes?
Rook to D5.
Better.
D4.
Building a breach, we do it on the 4th rank. The reason if you go to D5, I simply attack. Okay? So that's why we don't do that. You bring the rook to the 4th rank. That's how you build a breach. Now he goes up. He's keeping the king cut. And now we walk with the king. We want a queen. Check. We come up. Check. No rush. Check. We come up. Check. Takes. Queen. You see why I wanted his king to be 2 squares away from the pawn? Because if it was 1 square, he would have catch it and win the pawn. Okay, do you think you understand how Lucina works? Let's see. Do a little test. I'm going to mix up the position. Okay. Then you can do the, okay, let's see. White to play and win. By using same method, you're going to be able to win this game quite easily. Once you know it, it's easy. So, first move, king A5. Check. King B6. We want to give ourselves the square, right? So we can push the pawn. He goes back. D5. Correct. Now he goes here. Be very accurate. You cannot lose your pawn. Check with the rook. From where? D2. Because we want to move his king away. So we give a check. Now he's away. So now he needs 2 moves to catch the pawn. This is very important. Now next step. C7. Check. Now he has to play rook A3. This is the best defense. But let's say he's not doing that. He goes here. Now you win easily without even building the breach. No, not yet. Exactly. Rook A2. Rook A2. And then king comes up. So he goes here. He doesn't have checks now. You can actually even queen first if you like. Check. Takes. And then after the check, he has to step away. And we take the rook. Okay? So now he has to play rook A3. And now rook to D4, exactly. Now he goes here. Check. Check. Okay. Let's see if you can find a win now. I didn't show you this move yet. It's a little tricky move now. Because if I check, I already know you're going to go king b5 and block with rook b4 and you win. What do you do now? Exactly. You bring it closer. Same breach idea, bring it closer. You come up and to d5. All right? And now you're threatening to go rook b5. King here, go here. Okay, Great. So, any questions you have about this position? About the Lucina? Okay, now we're going to do the next position that I mentioned. Oh, by the way, this idea works the same way you can win if you have pawn on B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay? On these files, you use the same idea, it works. Okay? If you have a pawn on A and H, it's not going to work because it's very drawish if you have a pawn on A or H file. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the Philidor position. This is a pretty bad scenario for black because his king is on the last rung. It's very bad when your king is on the last rung. It's cut, that means cannot move forward, and white is about to advance his king and push the pawn. So it looks like very close. White is very close to win, but if you know the idea here, you're going to be able to make a draw here. The defensive resource here. Philidor. Name after player Philidor himself. He found this idea. So what do you do here to make a draw? If you don't play this move now, you're going to lose. Exactly. The idea is called Rook B6. You cut the king. You cannot, you always want him to push the pawn first. You don't want his king to get in front of the pawn. Okay? You want the pawn to get ahead first, because when the pawn pushed, he's not going to have a place to hide his king. So when you go down, you're going to start checking. You'll see now. Let's say he doesn't do anything. He goes here. What do you do?
Same, just move your rook up. Right.
Where? Where?
I'm going to keep it on 6 rank, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to keep him cut. You got to make sure you keep him cut.
Like C6. Yeah.
C6 or A6. A6 I like. Further away from the king better. So anyway, he's going to go here. You're going to go here. After trying a couple of times, he's going to give up and he's going to say, okay, I got to push. What do you do now? One inaccurate move and you can lose. One inaccurate move here. Correct. Rook C1. Now, the point is he has no place to hide now. He cannot get in front of the pawn. So now you just start checking from the back. Okay? Usually in a rook endgame, when opponent has a pass pawn, you want your rook behind the pass pawn. It's very important to know this. You don't want a rook in front of the pass pawn, because if you're in front, you're passive. In the back, you can defend, you can start checking as well. So in a rook endgame, you always want to have, if opponent has a pass pawn, you try to put your rook behind it. Not on the side, not in front, behind it. Now, he comes up. He wants to checkmate. He's about to checkmate you, but check. Now you just give him so many checks. Check. Check. As soon as he's away from his pawn, that he cannot protect with the king, you attack. If he pushes, we take. If he comes here, we come up. Take, take, take. Okay? This is Philidor position. Not very difficult, but you have to know it. You must know Lucina, Philidor, and the other endgames also. Okay, let's see. So let me change this up a little bit. So let's see if you can hold this endgame against me. I will be trying all the tricks to win it. Okay. I will play with white. You play as black. Okay? It's a draw, but let's see if you can do it. You can play rook c6. Excuse me? Rook c5. So when you have him cut, you can keep the rook there, okay? I will try to do something this way. Very good. You go to h5. You don't make sure you don't get carried away thinking about checks. That's what I want. I want you, because a lot of times in a quick games, at least I see a lot of players, they try to just check, check, check. That's what I want. But you don't do that. You keep the king cut. Okay, that's what you're trying to do here. No check. Check, you could bet for you. No choice. I gotta push. Correct. Again, no need to check. No need to give any unnecessary checks. You keep them cut. Okay? Excuse me? Correct. C6. Okay. Well, I'll take the rook. I want to take the rook. Question is now, what do you do now? See, after trying for a while, he's going to try for the last trick. Propose the exchange of the rooks. You don't find the right move, you could very easily lose now. Or make it more difficult, the defensive task here. Who knows the king and pawn endgame? Is it a win or a draw? Exactly.
This is a draw because the king is in front of the pawn. The opposing king is in front of the pawn.
Okay, let's take a look. You take, okay? You come up. Because his king cannot get in front of the pawn. So that means he cannot win. Now you want to come up and win the pawn. So he has to go back. What are you going to do? Get the opposition. This is called opposition. When kings in front of each other, one square, it's opposition. If it's more than one square, it's a distant opposition. This is what regular opposition. So if he goes back, you just go in front of the pawn. So he has to push. Three moves you have. Two of them losing. One draw. Losing. See? I get you out and I queen. In front of the king. You make a move, kings in front of each other, it's his move. That means you have the opposition. He pushes in front of the pawn. He has to go here, stalemate. Okay? This is very important to know, this king and pawn, because many endgames are drawn because you have this resource here. So if I go here, if you don't exchange, then there are some chances you could lose. Okay? So you have to make sure you exchange and you know this position. Okay, I'm going to try the last try to go for this idea. As soon as he pushes the pawn, where the king has no place to hide, what do? You go down, all the way down. Because if he checks, you just come up. If he checks, you just go back. So now he has to go here. What do? Check. 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 Constantly checking, yeah? Constantly checking. Check. He's away from the pawn where he cannot protect it. What do? Perfect. Rook e1.
Wasn't that available on the way back?
Yeah, it was. So we go back.